to the moment I made my maiden speech in this honorable House as the Prime Minister of our country. It was this moment 5 years ago, May 30th, 2019, when we took office, the Pangu government took office, and the country is entitled to know what we have done in the face of many contrasting views out there in the public space. When we took office, our major focus, in fact our core focus, was empowering and growing not just one part of our country, especially in the urban areas for the urbanites, but more importantly, growing the rural economy and our rural people where super majority of our people are and are still living up till today. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask your indulgence and the Parliament's indulgence. It's going to be quite a lengthy statement. I'll try to be succinct. The Parliament...
Point of order. With respect to the PM, could we have copies too?
Thank you. Before he continues, since it's lengthy, we may need the benefit of the actual document.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I speak.
The Honourable Governor for speak on your point of order and regarding to the statement. This is a statement by the Prime Minister. Since then the House has requested for the copy. We will allow to make a statement, copies and circulate it to all members that you can see later on your benefit of what statement is being. But then the House have already allowed Prime Minister to make his statement, so I will allow him to go by what he has. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Our copy is being run, and it will be in circulation for every members of Parliament and the public as I speak. So it will come in due course, and I want to appreciate the reminder. Mr. Speaker, scorecard of this government or any government is important for us to be transparent to our people. It has been 5 years since we took office. Some say there have been no achievement. I beg to differ. But our people must know what we have done and how we are progressing. What we have done is foundational and its impact will come in time. We are dealing with issues in totality and not in a haphazard manner to achieve one outcome, and that is a better Papua New Guinea. We are laying down strong building blocks under difficult circumstances. We inherited an economy that was poorly managed. On record, not James Marape's statistics. You look at final budget outcome 2018, we were negative 3% in recess. That's the economy we took over from. But we are picking up. We've looked at key fundamentals that must ensure we rise up and get going and move on and get our country moving into the right direction. But as we were going on, just by reminder, we faced the COVID-19 pandemic. It came upon us suddenly in 2020. We faced the Russia-Ukraine war, came upon us lately, the Israel conflict, the Middle East conflicts. Why am I raising these issues? We're not an isolated economy. We live in a globalized trading economy. Inflation externally has its impact in our country too. And so I want to present to this House the report of what we have done based on our government's policy. When we went to the elections in 2022, we were already in office almost 3 years, and our people retained the Pangu government in a big way. The last time there was a higher number. In fact, the highest number was Somare's, Grand Chief Michael Somare's 52 members returned in 1982. Under the organic law of political parties and candidates, Pangu coalition retained a Pangu majority at 39 MPs, Mr. Speaker. If that is something to go by, it indicates that people resonate well with our pro-rural based policy and our pro-PNG focused economic policies that we have. And we owe it to our people. If not to the dismay of those in the opposite, but we owe it to our people to explain properly what we have done. And so our people can decide and understand. I want to begin by stating the state of economy, a common conversation that we all talk about later on. And of course, as I go advance on, I will be talking about education, health, law and order, infrastructure, and other aspects of our progress of work that we have done. Mr. Speaker, on the state of economy, I must admit from outset, I understand clearly our people are doing it tough out there. And the presentation by Governor Baird this morning on the price of goods and services is not out of place. It is a real indication of the struggle our people are going through. And finding solution is something we must all do for our people. Mr. Speaker, our families are struggling to put food on the table. Our parents are struggling to pay for the cost of their children's health and education. Food costs and household costs have increased quickly over the last 2 years, and I am admitting this. As any responsible government, we must make admissions so that we make interventions for the better going forward. From available information, living standards today, and I just want to put this out so everyone have a read on this. This is from the information we have in government. From available information, living standards today are 38% lower than that at independence. And anyone would be unhappy with this one, including myself. As I set out our economic achievements, let me be clear that these are in the context of turning the MV PNG around. We were badly, of course, from about 2012, 2013, right up till 2019. We were still in a bad place when COVID-19 hit us in 2020. But we are restructuring. We are working. We are now, we're not even there yet. We're still a long, long way from the destination we wanted. But the ship has turned and turned in the right direction. In this scorecard, I will set out how we have turned the ship around and where we are heading now, especially in the right economic direction we want our country to sail into. We have made good progress. We have made progress despite the headwinds of worst global pandemic in a century, despite the wars that is happening elsewhere, despite the uncertainty in Middle East that has a link to oil price that affects us also. We also know that families are struggling, but we have deliberately used our fiscal policy tools before us to try our very best to contain an economy that would have gone haywire if we made no intervention. The clearest demonstration of the ship turning around, for instance, whilst the quantum mention of an economic growth is not an answer to an individual's problem, but at the macro level, I just want to indicate, for instance, when we took office in 2019 on record, IMF statistics, World Bank statistics, our own central government statistics, central bank statistics, and treasury statistics confirm we had an economy of 79.6 billion kina in 2018 rather. We took over in 2019, it expanded. In 2023 rather, our economy was 111 billion kina economy. This aid is forecasted that it will be 122.5 billion kina economy, a 43 billion kina higher economy in the last 5 years. If it had taken the first 44 years of our nation's life to grow economy to a 79 billion kina in 2018-2019, it has taken 43 billion kina in 4 hard years and 5 hard years to post this growth. This came at the backdrop of responsible fiscal policy adjustments by our government. In 2023, for instance, the GDP was 31.9 billion kina above 2018 level. In 2022, it was 31.8 billion kina above 2018. In 2021, it was 12.2 billion kina above 2018 level. Each of these differences represents additional production, additional earnings that our economy makes each year above what we had in 2018. Over the whole 5 years, the government, when you add it up, the accumulation to our national economy is 43 billion kina. We are now sitting above 111 billion kina economy. That means economic opportunity is much, much bigger than where the economy and participants in the economy had in 2019 or 2018. This has been driven by real improvements in the economy, especially in certain areas. In 4 years post-2019, non-resource real growth was averaging at 2.8%, 2.6%. I repeat, non-resource real growth in the economy was averaging at 2.6%. Despite COVID-19, and in 4 years prior, it averaged at 0.07%. 0.7%. And this is without COVID. Since COVID ended, and in 2022, the first year post-COVID-19, we've posted 5.2% growth in the non-resource sector of GDP. We estimated that it will stay strong. The growth will be was above 4.5 in 2023 and 4.7 as we estimate for 2024. This means one thing, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that production in the agricultural sector and production in the other sectors outside of mining and petroleum has been steadily increasing in the last 4 years. And that is consistent with the Pangu Party coalition focus. We have to shift our focus away from over-reliance on the extractive sector. Our sector in the non-resource sector is where our people are, especially the rural people of our country. That is where the coffee, copra, cacao, vanilla, that is where they are. And that is the focus of our government. Our price support and other interventions we made were geared towards lifting the non-extractive sector of our economy. The combined extra economic surplus over 5 years provides a new opportunity for jobs and investment. And you all know my definition of job. It is not just a fortnightly income, but people having money in their pockets. For every kina we have taken out of debt, our economy has increased more than fourfold. For every kina in debt, more than 80% has gone directly in infrastructure investments and investments with returns on the economy of over 300%. And for every kina in debt, we have financed at the cost of everything less than half the cost of former government, despite increasing the global interest rates. Mr. Speaker, something that we embarked upon was the strategy of accessing cheaper concessional financing backed by credible economic policies. Means interest rates over $1 billion kina every year is coming down. Means that we are reinvesting the savings of what would have been interest rate into infrastructures, into health, into education, into law and order. And if you look at how our allocation has been the last 5 years, we have been increasing our actual budgets from where it was before 2018 and where we are today in 2024. These positive economic growth figures are not, we posting does not make me deny the fact that struggles of our families are real, but they demonstrate that we are changing the course. And when the economy at the macro level gets stronger, gets bigger, then we have shown ability to subsidize our people where they're feeling the pinch the hardest. And as the economy in the quantum at the macro level gets bigger, I want to give assurance to our people that this government will continue to give subsidy to our people, especially at the buses, at the shop, at the school fee paying moments. We will still carry and assist, carry the cost. Mr. Speaker, cost of living has gone up. Cost of our living standard has also, we are understanding clearly the hardship that our people experience. I want to assure this House that the fiscal repair through government policy we've done is to ensure that we assist the economy and assist our people going forward. This government has a very credible fiscal program going forward that embraces reducing deficits, paying down our debts. That's what our 13-year budget repair plan is all about. In 2019, for instance, we quickly secured additional financing to cover a 2.3 billion kina deficit blowout that exposed our economy and our government's vulnerability then, and that went into supporting a budget to ensure we work to steady the ship. In 2020, when the global pandemic hit us, that reduced government revenue by 2.5 billion, government expenditure was held to initial budget focus so that we don't stifle spin of liquidity in the economy. This was despite absorbing 508 million in COVID-19 direct expense, and possibly this would be the only country, if not I'm wrong, a country that exercised strict fiscal discipline in the face of COVID-19 that could have caused us to go and be a little bit unresponsible. In 2021, the fiscal deficit outcomes was 6.4 billion kina, below the focus of budget at budget time at 6.6 billion. This represents what I mentioned earlier, a decline in the deficit of our country as we took responsibility. In 2022, the budget deficit became 5.8 billion, once again below the forecast of 2022 budget at 5.9 billion. In 2023, the focus was a budget deficit of 4.9 billion, 4.985 billion, but in 2023 final budget outcome, we had a deficit of 4.935 billion, 50 million kina less in as far as deficit was concerned. Again, sticking to our fiscal consolidation, meaning a decline in deficit or downing dina money goran. So triple year in a row, mibla downing dina goran. Slashing. You go on top and mibla slashing dina goran again. So that Yimi can come back, lotok pisin of the surplus budget by 2027. Money from country Yimi raise him, but no God need the dina money by me run him. Back and back dina will pass, now run him want the actual cash. So since 2019, time Mibla restructuring economy, 2020 time COVID-19 hit him Mibla, up him dina guanta for more than 2.5 billion. Now you may start cutting dina come down. By 2027, we will reduce it down to no borrowings, no dina, and purely operating budget long cash you may generating. Now you may start then, we will start to repay our dinners going forward into the future. This is what we envisage. Our debt to GDP ratio in 2021 was 52.6%. Today, in 2023, as we closed last year rather, it was 52%, 0.6% less. And as we go on into the future, by 2029, if we go on this path, then we'll hit 35% debt to GDP. And when Papua, Pinang, PNG, LNG, and every other reforms that we are doing to the economy matures to earn yield from these investments, I expect in the 2030s, whoever is in government, we would have passed on a stronger economy with strong economic fundamentals to that government. Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, me like talk also, one of the people heavy staff lo yet and foreign exchange shortage. Now me like make him legally talk all of this. Government knows the foreign exchange shortage are the greatest barrier, one of the great barriers of doing business in our country. That problem has become entrenched since the previous government, which I was part of. We took decision to artificially peg the kina in 2014. And it artificially increased the value of kina by 20%. Artificially increased the value of kina by 20%. Government had acted, and we are acting. We've identified a problem, and we are working to fix this. This had to be corrected as a critical first step. The government established early in 2021 an independent advisory group to recommend changes to the Central Banking Act. That report later that year led to a major change in the Central Bank Act. Before that reform, Mrs. Deputy Speaker, Central Bank governor was the most powerful man running the economy of our country. He had reported to no one, and if he chose to drink and relate in a pub with the prime minister of the day, he will choose to relate, and they construct a policy at their whims. And so we made this little reform. We introduced this little reform at the recommendations of the Independent Advisory Group.
Honorable Prime Minister, we have a point of order.
This is a very important statement to the nation. The Prime Minister should be serious about what he's addressing because our people are listening. Don't personalize issues and tarnish people's name who cannot defend themselves in this house. And stop making misleading statements such as artificially pegging the kina. No government in the history of this country has ever had a policy of artificial pegging of the kina. No government. You know very well that the monetary policy is a responsibility of the central bank independently. Only your government started integrating
Honorable Member Yalbu Pangia.
Just stick to the facts
Honorable
and
Member.
deliver a statement that a country deserves to hear from their Prime Minister.
Honorable Member for Yalbu Pangia, your point of order was in order as you started your point of order. I will ask the Prime Minister to refrain from other statement as you have said and continue on with I cannot allow you to debate again on the statement. Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, thank you for the reminder. The government knows that we're going through hard times. Central bank has a critical role to play in our economy. The work in tandem of monetary policy and fiscal policy assists the economy to be stable and to be progressive. The structure of central bank we had before was something that was confirmed by the Independent Advisory Group. And mind you, the Independent Advisory Group, Mr. Speaker, we choose to engage with our partners, personalities who are very experienced in the central bank. The late Sir Wilson Cummit, for instance, Professor or Chancellor Robert Igara, and there was a third person in that advisory group. 3 senior Papua New Guineans did a review and they recommended that it's about time we put competency at the board, and we have a board that has oversight in the central bank and oversight to the governor. So that recommendations came in. We made changes to the Central Banking Act that this Parliament passed, and we've now appointed a competent, and mind you, for the first time, the female governor who rose up from the ranks, who have worked over 30 years in the bank. Mrs. Gunea is now the governor of the bank, but the governor doesn't work on her own now. The governor reports, and governor reports to the board, and the board oversights on the functionality of the bank. I want to say, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that today as I speak, we have the highest ever foreign reserve in our central bank. On record, this would be the highest our country has ever had, over 3,956 million or 3.9 billion US dollar in the central bank. This is enough to cover 10 months of import, well above the international benchmark of 3 to 6 months. Bank of PNG is using this high level of reserves and supports the government's financing program to inject more foreign exchange in the market. Indeed, in 2023, for instance, Bank of PNG injected over $1.6 billion into the foreign exchange market, worth nearly $6 billion. This is a massive level of funding support in just 2023 to solve the foreign exchange shortage, contrary to what many may say, almost equivalent to a combined budget in health and education of $6.2 billion in 2023. There was huge backlog of forex, and Mr. Deputy Speaker, I just want to indicate to this House, Central Bank has been clearing this backlog. By the end of March 2024, outstanding forex orders of more than 2 months old for trade goods and services has fallen by 46 million. This is a much better result than expected. We are on track to get rid of backlogs on foreign exchange orders, on traded goods by 2025, and on dividends by 2026, and return to Kenya full convertibility by 2027. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about jobs and income. Supporting growth in the economy has been our agenda, and with real targets on growth, especially in the non-resource sector, to average about 5% per annum. This more specifically has been our focus, for instance, on jobs and income. There has been 7% growth in the formal sector employment since the impacts of global COVID-19 pandemic, after a 10% fall in Bank of PNG index of the formal sector employment from 175 in 2014 down to 158 in 2018, and then down to 153 during COVID-19. Employment growth has resumed, and the index has increased to 164, a gain of 7%. And this is central bank statistics. This is only formal employment sector in the private sector. This is only from the formal employment in the private sector. This only covers 1 in 20 jobs. Most of our jobs are not 9-to-5 jobs. Most of our jobs are work done, such as mother selling goods at the markets to raise kina for our family. This is known as the informal sector. However, we have little information on how that sector is performing because they do not complete the business surveys, and they usually are not in the paying tax cycles or in the superannuation. We only collect figures in the informal sector during census. I hope and pray that all of us support the census that is upcoming very, very soon. One of our priorities going forward as part of our jobs and income strategy is to get better data on all aspects of economic activity and employment. I want to say, however, we know that in the infrastructure sector, statistics have shown that we have created tens of thousands of jobs. We know that we are employing more teachers and health workers and police while cutting back on administrative positions in Waigani. And we do know that we are creating new options for our youths in seeking work in other countries, earning higher income, supporting their families and returning home to invest in small businesses. Lately, over 3,000 have been employed under our labor mobility programs, and this program will expand initially to cover about 8,000 by 2025. Mr. Speaker, many have been talking about state-owned enterprises. I want to announce to us that restructure and transformation in the state-owned enterprises are going on as we speak. We have targeted to receive over 1.6 billion kina, a program loan from ADB to address our state-owned enterprises to ensure power blackout is eliminated and other essential sectors that we need to do intervention on is done upon. I want to say these reforms are to improve SOE overall, and the overall contract available between the overall contract and the work that the state-owned enterprises are doing, in my view, have resulted in SOEs in 2023. Their production and contribution to state has increased. My note here tells me current investment stands between 300. Rather, let me read this again. These reforms are to improve the SOE and overall contract investment, which currently stands between 300,000 and to 10 million. It has resulted in increased annual financial contribution of the SOEs in 2023, with 643 million in community service obligations, 1.2 billion in government tax, and 78 million in dividend payments, an increased employment base of 6,379,000 Papua New Guineans, 6,379 Papua New Guineans. This SOE includes Kumul Minerals, Kumul Petroleum, and all our state-owned enterprises put together. Mr. Speaker, all of you know, I want to speak in succinct. Our work on Pogra, new Pogra mine has commenced in December 23, 2023, and we are now sitting at 51% ownership of the new Porgera mine. That includes all state and PNG beneficiaries, and the Porgera mine is operating. Final round of mine development contract negotiations has been going on. MRA has been up to this task. I want to also indicate to the Parliament that Okteri, it is announced that Okteri now will have additional 20 years of life, and project CDA review will soon come up. We'll be working with Western Provincial Government and Okteri landowners for this review next year, and that will cover the 20 years of extension from Okteri mine. Papua LNG, I want to announce to our country, consultations are still running. Total Energy and ExxonMobil haven't indicated abandonment of the project. The FID has been shifted to 2025 because of the cost blowout in EPC contracts that have tendered in. These cost blowout dynamics have resulted in Total, the project manager, deferring FID by 1 more year for further tender of expressly construction in the upstream sector. I want to announce to our country, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that negotiations on Pinang has reached an MOU level. We have a memorandum of understanding with ExxonMobil, a better MOU that secures our country total economic benefit over 60%. I want to announce that we have last night did the signing in the Pinang condensate project, I beg your pardon, Pasca condensate project, which now again consistent with our Pangu Party view on taking back more from our resources. The MRDC and Gulf Provincial Government sits at 50%, and our investors sits at 50% ownership of the Pasca project. It is a project, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we're looking to advance the downstream processing sector in our country, especially in the petroleum byproducts. Mr. Speaker, I want to announce to our country, conversation has shifted to wildebeest, what could possibly be a big LNG find in the southeast part of Gulf of Papua. Mr. Speaker, in the forestry sector, I want to say and admit from our front, is a sector that has not progressed substantially in a big way. Our focus on downstream processing remains. State is yet to fully utilize the state marketing option to ensure we buy logs from those who are permitted operators and move into downstream. But it's a sector that we have increased tax in a couple of budgets ago with the thought to shift them into downstream processing. We've now reduced the tax, and we're working with the sector, asking them if they could partner government, work with government to move into downstream processing of logs in our country for export. Similarly, likewise, in the fishing sector, we are focused in ensuring that all cats in our country are brought into our country for processing. Fishing sector is a big sector that has been underutilized, or focus has not been placed properly. In the administration of the Non-Tax Administration Act of 2022, fishing sector contributed, for instance, over 200 million kina revenue to the state. But we believe that that sector is a sleeping giant. I want to commend Minister Jalta Wong in his focus, Minister Maru in the focus for bringing all cats on shore. Our work at PMI Jet is moving. We want to make PMI Jet a hub of all fisheries processed in country and processed fish to be exported. This is the long-term focus of our government in our country. We must make this migration at the very earliest. I want to speak on agriculture. Our emphasis on agriculture remains. This is where 90%, if not 80% of our people are. We all eat and sustain our life out of agriculture. And our government is more focused in this sector because our people are in agriculture already. Output contributions to the national economy has improved by 35% in between 2018 to 2022. The sector performance in 2023 remains steady despite disruptions in global and domestic economy. Production output for major crops during 2023, for instance, has remained comparatively flat over the last 5 years, but in my view, poised to be increased as new crop areas is established by government. And I want to encourage all of you in the provinces and in the districts. This is where our people engage. We are pro-agriculture government. We are pro-livestock government. Please, where you can help. If you got land available, work with the lands department, and let's unbundle our rural people and migrate them from subsistence agriculture into actually cash agriculture for them to earn their living, and their country to also earn from the productivity in the agricultural space. We're reviewing legislations in the oil palm sector, rubber sector, and the livestock sector to ensure that the legislations are updated and to make production easy, market easy, export easy, and earnings easy. Mr. Speaker, on climate change, we are looking at climate change from an income perspective also, and not just a conversation.